History is not just a collection of dates and names. It's a living echo, a warning from the past that reverberates into our present. Some stories are too dark to forget, too vital to ignore. In the heart of modern Europe, the scars of the past are still visible. They are etched into the stone of monuments and the memory of a continent. To understand how a civilized nation, a land of philosophers, scientists, and musicians could descend into the abyss of total war and genocide, we must look at the man who stood at the center of the storm. Adolf Hitler was not an inevitable force of nature. He was a product of his time, a master of manipulation who turned national humiliation into a weapon of mass destruction. This is the story of the rise, the reign, and the ultimate ruin of a dictator. The journey began in the shadow of failure. In 1908, a young Hitler was rejected from the Vienna Academy of Fine Arts, a dream he had harbored since childhood. Living in poverty, often homeless, he drifted through the city, absorbing the virulent, anti-Semitic, and nationalist rhetoric prevalent in Viennese society. Figures like Karl Lueger, Vienna's mayor, and the racial theorist Lanz von Liebenfels fueled his nascent prejudices. This period was crucial in shaping his distorted worldview, a toxic brew of racial hatred and resentment. But it was the outbreak of World War I in 1914 that gave him a sense of belonging and purpose. As a dispatch runner on the Western Front, he found a home in the trenches, a camaraderie he had never known. When Germany surrendered in 1918, Hitler felt a betrayal that bordered on madness. He, like many others, clung to the stab-in-the-back myth that Germany hadn't been defeated on the battlefield, but betrayed by Jews and Marxists at home. This grievance became his life's mission, a burning desire for revenge and national redemption. In the tumultuous 1920s, Munich was a powder keg of political violence and extremist ideologies. Disillusioned and radicalized, Hitler found himself drawn to the burgeoning nationalist movements. He joined the Small German Workers' Party, an obscure group, and quickly discovered his powerful oratorical skills. His fiery speeches, blaming Jews, communists, and the Treaty of Versailles for Germany's woes, resonated with a populace reeling from economic hardship and national shame. He transformed the party, renaming it the National Socialist German Workers' Party, or Nazi Party, and designed its iconic swastika emblem, turning it into a symbol of his burgeoning movement. The party's paramilitary wing, the SA or Brown Shirts, enforced his will through street violence and intimidation. In 1923, emboldened by Mussolini's march on Rome, he attempted a violent coup, the beer hall putsch, to overthrow the Bavarian government. It failed miserably, resulting in his arrest and trial, which ironically gave him a national platform. Behind bars in Landsberg prison, he realized he couldn't take power by force. He had to win it through the system. He spent his months in a cell writing Mein Kampf, a rambling, hateful blueprint for his future vision. The purification of the German race, the conquest of Lebensraum, living space in the East, and the systematic destruction of his perceived enemies. But how did a failed artist, a man consumed by manage to seize control of an entire nation and plunge the world into its darkest hour? The answer lies not just in his cunning, but in the fertile ground of a broken society. Opportunity arrived with the Great Depression of 1929. As millions lost their jobs, the Nazi message of work and bread, coupled with promises of national pride and a return to greatness, began to resonate deeply with a desperate populace. The instability of the Weimar Republic, plagued by economic crises and political infighting, created a vacuum that Hitler expertly exploited. Through a series of shrewd backroom political deals and the relentless street-level intimidation by his SS, Hitler was appointed Chancellor on January 30th, 1933 by President Paul von Hindenburg, who mistakenly believed he could control the fiery demagogue. Within months, Hitler moved to dismantle democracy. He exploited the burning of the Reichstag building in February 1933, blaming communists to suspend civil liberties through emergency decrees. The Enabling Act of March 1933 effectively made him a dictator, allowing him to pass laws without parliamentary approval. He swiftly dismantled labor unions, banned all other political parties, and purged the civil service of Jews and political opponents. The Night of the Long Knives in 1934 eliminated internal rivals within his own party, solidifying his absolute control. Upon Hindenburg's death later that year, Hitler merged the offices of Chancellor and President, declaring himself Führer leader. Democracies had been murdered by its own elected officials, replaced by a totalitarian regime. The Nazi grip on Germany wasn't just maintained by the Gestapo's terror. It was built on a revolution of media and propaganda. For the first time in history, a dictator entered every citizen's living room through radio and film. Joseph Goebbels, the minister of propaganda, understood a terrifying truth. If you tell a lie big enough and keep repeating it, people will eventually come to believe it. His ministry controlled all forms of communication, from newspapers and radio to cinema and art, ensuring that only the Nazi message was heard. In May 1933, tens of thousands of books works by Einstein, Freud, Hemingway, and countless others deemed un-German were fed to the flames in public spectacles, symbolizing the regime's war on independent thought. Independent thought was now a crime against the state. The regime systematically targeted the most vulnerable, the youth, through organizations like the Hitler Youth and the League of German Girls. An entire generation was indoctrinated from an early age, raised to value obedience, racialpolitik, and loyalty to the Führer over conscience and critical thinking. By 1938, the psychological groundwork for the Holocaust was complete. The bystander effect had been engineered. A nation was now conditioned to look away as their neighbors were stripped of their rights, their property, and eventually their lives, dragged into the night. The Nuremberg Laws of 1935 stripped Jews of their citizenship, and Kristallnacht in 1938 saw widespread violence against Jewish businesses and synagogues, signaling the escalating brutality. On September 1st, 1939, the world exploded as Hitler's forces invaded Poland, igniting World War II. His war of annihilation claimed over 60 million lives, devastating continents and cultures. It led directly to the Holocaust's systematic, industrialized murder of 6 million Jews and millions of others, including Roma, homosexuals, and disabled people. But the architect of this horror would not see his thousand-year Reich survive its 12th year. By April 1945, as the Red Army closed in on his bunker in Berlin, with his regime crumbling around him, Hitler took his own life. He left behind a shattered nation, a continent in ruins, and a world that promised never again. Today, his story remains a chilling reminder of how quickly a society can lose its way when it chooses hatred over humanity. The light of democracy is fragile. It must be guarded, or the shadows will return. Yet, with vigilance and unity, we can ensure that the lessons of the past guide us toward a brighter, more just future. Follow and subscribe for more stories like this. Until next time.